For December 20th, 2024, we talk about Marvel Rivals, Rise of the Golden Idol, The Cabin Factory, and much more. Welcome to Level 526. My name is Cole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm Moxie.
I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Due to a quirk of the calendar, this will be the last episode of the year. Because the next two recording nights are going to be Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve. People are going to be traveling. I am not going to put any liens on your time. So we'll be back in the new year.
That's totally the right call, although I do like the image of us recording an episode just completely tanked on champagne.
See, that would have to be recorded at like 6 p.m. I do not stay up or go out on New Year's Eve. Although in this fiction, I am getting drunk on champagne at 5 p.m. So
that works.
Yeah,
you can do what I do for my kids and just put on like the new New Year's Eve celebration and then call it a day nice and early.
I'll celebrate like when it's New Year's in like Greenwich Mean Time and then go to bed.
Just tell people you stayed up past 12 and don't specify which 12.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch, one of my friends in college was into it. Apparently there's some movie that I think it's like the Brits or the Germans or whatever.
Yeah, it's the Germans. Over in Mecklenburg Gardens, they used to show it. It's not a movie that has anything to do with New Year's, but it's like a traditional movie to watch on New Year's because it was on television always on New Year's. It's not a German movie.
Yeah, all I remember about it is that like the set includes a tiger skin rug or something, and the characters just repeatedly trip over the head.
Yeah,
it's like a Rocky Horror type thing where like I don't know, you have to do something every time they trip or something.
Yeah, it's not a movie; it's a very long comedy sketch, and it is German. I was incorrect. Yes, but there is a tiger rug in all of these screenshots. Dinner for one. So pursuant to it being near the end of the year, we do want to announce that the voting is open for the title of the year. Presuming I didn't spring the title list on Dennis, too late for a poll to be made.
No, it's up.
Yeah. Every year we just have people choose their favorite title from the year. It's always fun because they're pulled from phrases during the episodes. And then also the things that were nominated but not quite titles. We call that the alternate titles of the year, or the ATOTs. You may say, this is very self-indulgent. This is for nobody. I will say this is for people who appreciate the musicality of language. Yeah. So there'll be a link in the post and on social media and all of that. Yeah,
I am holding myself back from reading some of these because I don't want to bias people, but it was a good year for at least on this front.
That's a crap. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have anything that I've been doing. I have just been working. To take a week off, we have to crunch an awful lot. I'm recording 10 things this week. I've been recording for 4 hours so far.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I have not had time to live a life, and maybe somebody else has. Dennis, how about you?
Oh no, I don't have any excuses for being boring though.
Okay.
So yeah, it's holiday season, so just doing holiday things. It's funny. There's a kid that lives in the neighborhood that Luke is good friends with, and they kind of they wander in and out of each other's houses, pretty ad hoc, which is great. I love that. But this kid always has candy on him and is always very generous. That's a wonderful trait. I want to encourage it, but that also means that Luke is consuming an extra 3 to 5 pounds of candy a day.
Oh no, that's no good.
Yeah, I gotta figure out where to put my foot down and be bad dad. versus like, oh my gosh, this is like, a really good friend of Luke's, and this is a really kind impulse that he's acting from, and I don't want to step on that. But my God, that's a full-size Snickers bar. Where did you even have that?
Yeah.
So it's just, he said it himself literally today. This is probably why it's on my mind. Cause he whipped out candy canes for everybody. Milo and Barrett get caught in the splash damage of this candy storm.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, I just poop out candy wherever I go. It's like, don't know about that.
That's not sustainable from an energy or just like a, let's say stomach integrity. Kid'll get sick eating too much candy.
You would think, but they are testing that theory, my friend. So yeah, I'm just mad that he's never offered me candy. Personally, that's if we're going to be real here, that's my hang up.
He knows that you are normally the source of candy. You can get candy when you want it.
This is true. This is very true. Whether or not it is a good idea, I find myself able to get candy when I want. So, it's that's the first thing that comes to mind for this past week.
Yeah. Okay. Let's test with somebody else. Moxie, how about you?
Honestly, I don't have a whole heck of a lot going on this week.
Okay.
I'm. This is like the slide into Christmas. So
yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Oh, okay. You don't have to have an answer. That's fine.
That's all I got. I am open to ideas for irresponsible adventures I could have, though. So if anyone's got ideas.
Okay. Ben, how about you? How you doing?
I don't know if the segue will track or not, but I had a responsible adventure over the weekend instead of an irresponsible one.
Okay.
I went to Costco for the first time in a long time.
Okay.
Just to get like groceries and stuff. That is a very anxiety-inducing place.
It's not a soothing environment.
I want to minimize the number of times I have to go there. People will just cut you off with their carts, and it is, and the lines are crazy long, and it's like, I get the value proposition, but man,
it is an expedition to go to a Costco in a way that it is not to other stores. Costco makes me feel the way other people describe IKEA making them feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Funny enough, the premise is that you will have to go there less than other places.
Yes.
Because of the bulk shopping. But most people that I know, myself included, unfortunately, wind up going more often.
Right.
Yeah. But that was a very different grocery experience than what I'm used to, which is like walk in, walk out, and get what you need for the day sort of thing and fit it in a bag. Yeah. So,
what kind of consumer are you?
I don't know. An unhappy one. But yeah, other than that, it was a pretty chill weekend. I rewatched Inside, the Bo Burnham thing on Netflix. Holds up, extremely good, still good. Yeah.
Nice.
I still don't understand it as a lead into Inside Out. The prequel I never really grokked.
It's not even in the same visual style.
Depending upon how you do the double feature, you can understand the emotions that Bo Burnham is going through.
It is true. There's probably a surprising amount of
cool. Well, I mean, we can just talk about video games. That's the thing we could do.
Got lots of those to talk about.
Yeah. To do that, we'd have to do the regular kind of show, what with the grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with The Grind. The Grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. I have something new.
Ooh.
I streamed over this past weekend a game called The Cabin Factory.
Oh, yeah.
This is a very small game. It's an independent game, an independent team putting out this $3 video game. But I want to draw attention to it because it is very good. This is a game that is in vaguely the anomaly spotting genre.
Oh, okay.
I've talked about that before with the Exit 8 is my favorite one of these that I've played, where you're going through a like subway tunnel. Or a subway station, like hallway, and you need to spot like what's different. That one's really subtle. This one is much more kind of overt, but they do cool stuff with it. So the idea is you are somebody who is going in for your first day of work at a factory that produces prefabricated cabins for haunted houses and horror movies. Okay. You walk up and you start your shift, and then coming ridiculously fast down a conveyor belt is one of these cabins. You need to walk inside and check to see if it is haunted. And you will know if it's haunted if there is unusual movement. Now, the thing is, because it is designed for, horror movies and haunted houses, like the standard scene inside is already kind of disturbing, like there's just some weird dolls, like it's a, family, the kid who's like hiding under the stairs, and another one kind of upstairs with its head covered, and, a dad angrily looking at an apple on a table.
That horror movie trope.
Yeah. There's a spooky there's a spooky portrait of a lady on the wall. We have to go in and check and see, and you have to say whether or not it is haunted. You need to guess correctly 8 times in a row. Also, you need to stay alive during it, because if you spot a haunting, then if you spot a haunting and stay inside, or if a haunting procs and you're inside too long and you don't notice it, then whatever it is will become a threat and kill you. And then you've got to start over again and have to get 8 in a row.
It's like the platform game, but a splash of like phasmophobia in there.
Yes. Yeah. And when I say it's subtle, or when I say it's less subtle, there are ones that are, kind of subtle. Like I didn't see what it was, and I definitely got it wrong, probably because I died. But it was like, oh yeah, no, just that one was haunted. Start over again. Like the most subtle one that I saw, they're all movement based in some way. It was like I walked in, and then like a coffee mug on the table was like very slowly scooting across the table. I saw that, and I fucked off out of there and said haunted, and it was right. Other ones are much bigger, kind of more grandiose, and more dangerous. And I don't want to spoil it, because essentially this is a game about gags, and there are good gags, but like they play with a bunch of stuff, like the things following you around or changing when you're not looking. They play around with like the illogical spaces kind of deal. They definitely play some very dirty tricks on you. And I got through and got a win, but there were still like 17 of these that I didn't see. It tells you afterward, like you get a count of how many are left, left to identify. So like there's plenty of stuff in there.
Do you know how many you did see?
No, probably like 13, I had to say. Like maybe there are like 30 of these, and I spotted the difference, right? Which makes sense.
Now, what is the incentive to I'm trying to think of how to word this question. Like, you're waiting for something to move. And if you don't notice it moving, you just die. If you do notice it moving, you get out. So what is the point at which you just decide to leave if you haven't seen anything move?
Well, that's the game.
Like, where does...
that's where the game is.
Fair.
And do you instantly die, or is it like, you start taking damage or something?
No. Like something will start moving and be like even if the thing that is moving does not come and get you, like a presence will manifest and start chasing you. It's never instant. You can run and escape from it, right? It's complicated by the fact that the stuff that's in there is already kind of spooky. Also, there will be minor differences that don't count as a haunting. Small variations. Somebody will be in a different spot. There will be like a new little thing there, but those don't count as hauntings because it's
so
just,
if they weeping like angel, it's not haunted. If they move while you're looking, it is haunted.
If it's a weeping angel, it is haunted. It is something that moved. If it is just when I go into most of these, the little kid is hiding behind the stairs, and in this one, he's hiding upstairs. That doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only timer you're on to make the call of safe is your own boredom.
Yeah, and you don't want to stay in there forever, obviously, because you want to get on to the next one. But like any of these anomaly things, you quickly come up with a list of stuff that you need to check. So you go in and say, all right, here's the furnace, here's the bed. Is there anything coming out from under the bed? Is there anything wrong with the table over here? Is there something behind the stairs? Is this door open? What is going on top of the stairs? Stuff like that. You eventually get like a checklist, and then you have to lose or kill the doubt in you that says like, okay, no, that there definitely is not anything wrong in this. Sometimes you get it wrong, but it's usually pretty obvious if there is something.
See, the convention of these like coming down a conveyor belt to you makes me feel like there should be like you need to hit your quota of cabins pressuring you to get through a certain amount and maybe leave before you're entirely sure just to keep up.
Yeah. It's not like that. Although there is a wrinkle that I found to be pretty cool, which is there's Twitch integration.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay, so you put in your credentials and it will watch your chat. And people who are in your chat, they can enter commands to vote. And they can vote clear, they can vote danger, or after you die for the first time, they can guess whether or not you're going to die in it, which is a little bit like a timing game, right? And then there's a leaderboard of like the top like point getters over the course of the run of a game, which I thought was a very cute way to acknowledge that this kind of game is streamer bait, right? It was neat. I forget, Moxie, were you in the chat for this one?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was definitely helpful and did not vote clear in times when I was pretty sure there was a monster.
Yeah. It's like, I come back downstairs and it's on fire and I just see Moxie put in there clear.
This is fine.
What happens if you clear a cabin that's haunted?
No, you just get it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it just kind of resets back to 0, which is fine. Yeah. Good.
Is there any sort of like narrative thread in the game, or are the cabins like pretty independent of one another?
Like vaguely, there's a story being told about this family where terrible things happen to them in it. Mm-hmm. A lot of the hauntings have to do like the mom's bad news. The kids are not necessarily what they seem, etc. It's not super overt, but you can sense that it has to do with that. Mm. Yeah. And when I say this, good.
Well, that was the one thing I couldn't quite figure out is like there were radio things that suggested a kind of meta narrative, but unlike most of these sorts of games, it didn't seem like there was any like reveal or anything.
Right. Yeah. There's like a radio broadcast about a fire that happened at a cabin, where the people were seemingly trapped inside. If that was there, I didn't see it. Which is fine. This can have like weird little ARG clues. There are people who make it their business to solve those things. I'm not one of them. I will like look at it on a TV Tropes or wiki page a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Surprising to see this is not like a early access or a beta. It was just a release.
Yeah, no, they just put it out.
Yeah. And so you don't see that very often. So kudos to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I dig it. I haven't spoiled things. Obviously, the stream spoiled maybe roughly half of the hauntings you could get. But I don't know. For $3, you get maybe an hour and a half of play if you're taking your time. It is a wonderful little snack, is what I will say.
And in fact, right now it's on sale for $2.69, which I approve of.
Well, that makes all the difference in the world.
That's 30 cents. Can just increase your joy by that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. The other thing, I finished up Kendo's Cut Uncut, that classic Resident Evil 2 mod that I was talking about roughly last week. I had started that on Duckstream and really enjoyed it, and I didn't want to just not see how it resolved. It is wild.
Can you give us a taste of where Kendo ended up?
I don't want to spoil it because I absolutely recommend people try and play it for as ridiculously hard as it is to get to run. But like, it starts pulling in stuff like meta-textually from across the series.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we saw him break at least like 2 dimensions. I was wondering if there are any more that he broke by the end of the game.
It starts pulling in, I guess this is, I don't want to give like a total spoiler for exactly what happens. It starts bringing in stuff from Resident Evil games that were never released. Ooh. That were like rumored about. Yeah, it's really good. There are a couple of points where the signaling was kind of bad, but it is hard to take that too personally because it's a very small team done entirely for free and likely not play tested in a huge way. But yeah, Kendo's Cut Uncut is very good. I mean, both of them, Kendo's Cut and then Kendo's Cut Uncut. The first one you're playing as Leon, the second one you're playing as Claire. Both really good.
Yeah, that was very entertaining to watch on Duckstream.
And then the last thing, also inspired by Duckstream, I picked up Fuser again.
Oh, what's that?
So this is a music game by Harmonix, the rock band people, that instead of having you play an instrument, you are kind of doing a simplified and systematized version of being a DJ, where you select a bunch of tracks, and from each of the tracks, or you select a bunch of songs, and then you can combine different parts of the songs on 4 different tracks. So you can have like the drum beat from one song, the bass from another, like the synth of the guitar from another, and the vocals from another. And it is providing you with kind of all of the information that you need to kind of make changes on the fly to kind of put together an original DJ composition.
Yeah, this owns. And in my mind is like the platonic ideal of what I want from a music game.
It's more of a tool than anything, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think of Drop Mix, essentially this as a physical card game.
Yeah. Drop Mix preceded this. That was also Harmonix. It's the same idea, except it's played with cards.
Yeah, and
like
this seems to be
thing.
Still supported, which Drop Mix is not. RIP.
No, this is not supported. You can't download this. You can't buy this anymore. However,
oh no. Fuck! Why do they do this to us?
Yeah, because music licenses are expensive. Yeah,
that's very unsatisfying.
It is very, very easy to get a hold of, though.
Oh,
good.
Also, slightly more difficult to get a hold of, but not rocket science or anything. Is custom DLC. There's plenty of songs that came on the disc. There are plenty of songs that were available as DLC for the game, kind of officially supported and released. But like any of these rhythm games, there is a dedicated community of sickos who will make their own content and put it up there for people to download. There's just a huge catalog of tracks to pull down. Some of which is kind of jokey. There's a lot of like meme song kind of things, but also like, oh, that's just a good ass song that I want to have like that drone from that, or I want to have this particular beat, or, you know, this vocal line I know is really good. Huge variety on it. Will uses this to very good and funny effect to make what he calls the bad sounds, which is just combine all these gimmicky dumb songs in a very amusing way. But I want to stream and do, you know, funny stuff like that. But I've been making an actual go at like sitting down and saying like, okay, what if I did this and made something I actually wanted to listen to? And that has been rewarding in and of itself.
Yeah. Then you can do like every other DJ and, you know, find something that you're really happy with, hit play, and then pretend like you're mixing it live.
Yes.
For a set.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I don't have too much more to say because it is not really a game. It is a tool. But exploring custom DLC in that, just like exploring custom DLC in any rhythm game, is real fun because you get to, and I don't know, they've got like Modest Mouse in there. I can like pull in the banjo from Bukowski, right?
Hell yeah.
So
typically with like fan made content for rhythm games, my problem is like they are designing it for a more skilled player than I am. But with this being, like you said, more of a tool, I'm sure that the fan made stuff is a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
And you can maybe have a lot more fun with it than if you're like, oh, this only has the Expert plus plus music chart. And I'm just not there.
Yeah, yeah. What you run into is there's kind of inconsistent quality, but the resource that I go to for this for the DLC, it's like a big spreadsheet or database that actually like ranks. Like there are indications like, hey, this is one that is actually like really, really good. Here's ones that are like acceptable, and there are notes about like specifically like, hey, don't try to do this in minor key, it just doesn't work. And there are ones that are like not tested that you can kind of take a chance on. Yeah, so you don't run into the, super hyper scale, everything needs to be harder than the Fire and Flames kind of problem with this. It just, you end up getting into like, oh, here's like just weird tastes, right? Like every single song that was ever in a Pokemon game is in there because one of the creators just really liked putting Pokemon songs in.
At risk of sounding like Ben, it's an amazing example of like music is just math. And you can get so much to go together if you know the right way to translate it.
And like once you understand, like once you get the interface, you can see like they have a really smart like annotation for like a timeline on each individual song that is, that shows you like, okay, there is a very good point in the song to drop a to cut into the vocal line on this, right? Like that's conveyed in like colored dots on like a little like beat meter kind of thing. Yeah, and everything is just kind of beat matched and lined up and put into the right key or whatever. And if it sounds really bad, you can either just not use that track or you can go in and like make adjustments. So like I've been having like a lot of fun with, progressively speeding up or slowing down a mix, on the fly.
Nice.
What determines like the key and the tempo? Is it like it's just like one of the songs will dictate it, or
the first one you lay down is my understanding. Because like I, put down a track from a Fever Ray song. It's real slow and kind of drony, and it was like set to the slowest BPM possible. It made really cool, like trippy sounding stuff off of that. So. It's
I can imagine starting with a Tool song that's like in 7/16 or something, and
I don't know if I've not seen like any like super adventurous time signatures that wouldn't also match out effectively to like a 4/4. Yeah,
interesting.
Because the conceit is you're making dance music. I don't know if you're getting into like I don't know, stuff that is as like math fucked as that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's what I got. The Cabin Factory, Kendo's Cut, Uncut, and Fuser. I would like to stream some Fuser. I think that would be fun to inflict that on folks.
That's a productive week for you on the level front.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, 2 of them were streams, and then one was, let's see. Who wants to go next?
I have a lot of stuff to talk about, so
okay.
I'm excited to jump in.
All right.
If I may. Good mix of new stuff and then new stuff in old stuff. And I will start with kind of the game that inspired the multiplayer coming up here. I've been playing Marvel Rivals.
Okay.
Free to play, Marvel, obviously, hero shooter. Feels like Overwatch before Overwatch went down the toilet.
Okay.
Synonymous with became Overwatch 2. And it is a real good time. It's like, oh yeah, hero shooters can be fun and not just, slog fests through loot boxes and broken metas. I think the game literally came out this week as we're recording, and I think everyone's still kind of figuring it out. There's not expectations around who you're playing versus not. I've played squatted up with a bunch of friends, and that's a blast. But it is truly just Overwatch with Marvel characters instead of, uber horny characters.
Okay.
They could be horny. We don't know that.
I believe there's a squirrel girl in this game.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story. But yeah, this is good times. I don't know if any of you have sunk time into like hero shooters or gotten Overwatch or anything like that.
Not generally, no. I mean, closest I would have gotten was like Team Fortress 2, like back in the day.
The OG. Yeah. This scratches that itch well. It is cool that many of the heroes maybe I'll back up. In Overwatch, the character Reinhardt is like the big guy with the hammer and shield. Mm-hmm. And the gimmick was that he primarily was a melee character, and he had some like a ranged attack he could do every once in a while, but mostly he's either, shielding his friends or swinging a hammer. And it was like to have that plunked in the middle of a PvP shooter was really interesting and kind of just threw the dynamic on its head. Marvel Rivals is very aggressive in having a lot of characters like that. Mm-hmm. And not just a tank with a giant shield, but having, a DPS character be like Iron Fist, who's going to be up close and personal, and, all this other stuff. And so it is even more tilted towards, this is a shooter, but the heroes are going to fight how they would fight in a comic book.
Yeah. You get Wolverine in here and the Hulk.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that is really cool it's really cool that they've leaned into that. And I think the game is benefiting from it. I so far have primarily played tank characters, played Venom and then Hulk, who you just mentioned. And it is the first time that I have actually enjoyed playing a tank. I chose Venom initially because he was like reported as the easiest character to play. Okay. I was just like, I need something that's idiot proof here. But from there it's like, I can be big and beefy and stand in the middle and, try to scare people off without necessarily killing them and, do all this stuff. Like it's kind of clicked in a way that tanks have never clicked for me before. And I think it's due to the fact that, a melee tank or getting up close and personal is so much more prevalent in this game than in other shooters you would play. Mm-hmm. So that's very well done. I've put in very limited time with other characters, not enough to really comment on it. But it is just big goofy fun right now. Like I said, I played squatted up with my D&D group one night, and hilarity ensued. So highly recommend people check it out. There is a battle pass, but I haven't seen anything in there that feels exploitative. There are no heroes that you have to buy. Everything is available off the bat. Yeah. So, it's got a battle pass because everything has to have a battle pass, but there doesn't seem to be too much exploitative on top of that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask like how communication was, and you kind of answered that since you said you played with D&D friends, but have you played with any random people at all?
I have had exactly one person that I was not direct friends with in real life talk to me in chat. Mm-hmm. And that was to say something akin of like, hey, and that was it.
Cool.
Wait, they didn't even use a racial slur?
No, what is this?
It was heavily implied.
Yeah. It was hey.
It was
and
the way they said hey. You just knew what they meant.
So I blissfully silent. It'd be nice to have people doing team call outs, but also, we're all newbies at it. Mm-hmm. And at my skill level, everyone is just figuring it out anyway. So I don't think anyone feels authoritative enough to go shouting. There's a ping feature that gets used. Mm-hmm. And like in any game with a good ping feature, that does 90% of the work for you.
Yeah.
Like go here, attack here, watch out here. And that's 90% of what you want to communicate.
Yeah.
So my most important question, can Squirrel Girl simply fill the entire screen with rodents?
Not that I have seen.
Yeah, it sounded like you had a Squirrel Girl story. It sounded like you had a Squirrel Girl story when she was brought up.
Did we not talk about this? Her character model is very detailed and very voluptuous, we will say.
Yeah.
Which is funny because she's not a particularly sexualized character in the comics.
Well, if she wasn't before, she is now.
Yeah.
My God.
She's most notable for having beaten almost every major Marvel villain. Like, she single-handedly defeated Thanos.
Okay.
It turns out that being covered by literally 1,000 squirrels tends to mess most people up.
Yeah.
I mean, Thanos can only take out 500 at a time, so.
Yeah.
Right,
You're never going to get rid of every single squirrel.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, if you enjoyed Overwatch in the past and were turned off it, like I was, or even if you're just a Marvel fan, like, all the skins in this game are pure nerd candy for people that are into the lore of Marvel. So it all goes completely over my head, but I can imagine someone familiar with that universe geeking out over the different variants of every character.
Yeah. My favorite is that they did include Jeff the Land Shark wearing a shark costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some cuts here. Like, there's Moon Knight. Nobody likes Moon Knight. I would like to play as Moon Knight.
I could wait till the multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just there are characters that would be interesting to see how they play. And also, I'm very glad that this is not designs that are like pulled straight from MCU.
No, very distinct.
Yes.
Bruce Banner has no Banner about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some of the character designs I don't like, but I will leave that out of this so as not to get trolled. But fair. No, the one that looked really cool to me was Cloak and Dagger. It looks like it's a double character.
Yeah, that's one of the ones where it's like sometimes I see them around and sometimes I kill them, and then sometimes I die near them, and I don't really understand why. So
in the comics, it's like mind blades and teleportation powers.
Yeah. Huh. I use with Venom, you get web swinging.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Like, Spider-Man has that as well in the game. If I want to go over into any complaints, there's an auto web swing mode that's supposed to simplify it, where you don't have to like look at where you want to attach the web. You just push forward and hit the web button, and you'll kind of swing vaguely in the direction you were headed. Mm-hmm. It is god awful and not helpful at all.
The auto web, or
the auto web is terrible.
Yeah.
It just constantly latches onto something that sends you like, into a pillar that's in your way, or just in a direction that you did not want to go. And so I guess my one pro tip is, like, anyone playing this game and looking at Spider-Man or Venom, go in and turn off auto web for them. Just you'll get so used to looking up to attach your web and then looking where you want to go. It's infinitely smoother that way.
Man, that's too bad, because that is a solved problem.
Yeah. Well, I haven't played a recent Spider-Man game to know how they do it there. But I imagine that there's a little bit more nuance to the control, like you get when you essentially set it to manual in this game. And once you do, it feels great. So
you can scale how automated you want it to be, but generally, the movement makes sense. It's not like you're webbing straight up into the sky and latching onto a cloud or something.
Unfortunately, this it feels real bad when it's on auto mode here. My only other complaint is that the levels, it's clear that someone put like a lot of thought into the lore of every level. And there's a whole story about like, two different, locations from two different timelines are getting combined in each level, and it creates these places. And it's astounding to me with the amount of like text and thinking behind every level that every single one looks as bland as it does.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Like there's clearly a ton of care that went into it, but they all feel incredibly generic. So That was kind of surprising. You get kind of big hype videos introducing each level. And like I said, you can go reading about everything that's going on. And then the levels themselves are just completely disappear in the combat. So, other than that, those are really the only two things I have to complain about. That's Marvel Rivals.
So there's like 30 some characters you can choose from, it looks like. Is that true?
33. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a good roster to start with. And they have the tutorials. They have a tutorial for just general. They have a tutorial for specific heroes, and they have a tutorial for specific game modes. So it's clear they went out of their way to like give you an on-ramp to that volume of content.
Yeah.
Which is helpful. Yeah. When you're tipping your toe into something new. Speaking of which, I got another new game that I've been playing. If you guys don't have any other questions on Marvel Rivals. I broke into For the King 2.
Okay. Did you play the first one?
A little bit. I never got very far in it. But the premise is very much the same in the sequel. Hex-based, kind of roguelike adventuring game. You build your party and then move each individual character around the map. Using your various skills to explore stuff on the map, but then also getting into combats where everyone takes their turns. In the original game, it was kind of a turn-based battle, and there wasn't too much to it. The upgrade in 2 is now that everything in battles is on a grid. Although so far I have not had the grid make a ton of difference. There are some nuances where, like, if a character has a shield, the space behind them is protected. So you can kind of protect your squishies in front of protect your squishies behind your frontline fighters, etc. But really, I've been surprised that so little feels different in the second game. And to some extent, it's fine for me because I didn't get very far in the first game. But the grid format is exactly the same. A lot of the events feel very samey. The game is built around like you're getting random loot, you're having to pass random checks all over this map. There's a lot that's randomly generated every run. And so I think, I don't know, they just did not do enough between the first and the second game to immediately show me like how this set of random stuff is meaningfully different than the set of random stuff I got in the first game. Maybe that's the way to say it is. It doesn't feel like a sequel. It just feels like a different run of the first game. Which
now, are you
it's
playing
early
this
yet, so
single player?
I am. So it's clear they want you to be playing with like 4 different people, multiplayer, and each person controls one character. That feels like it would get very boring very quick. And so I've just been playing single player. A nice thing that comes with the sequel is instead of one giant campaign that you're trying to get through start to finish, it breaks it down into 5 like campaign sections, each one that you can start and run through as its own thing. And they unlock progressively as you play, but then like as you're, if you party wipe or if you want to start something new, you have more control over where in the story you were starting back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The classes too, like, so the story is it's 20 years after the first game. The queen has been, ruling in place of the murdered king in the first game, but she started to like go crazy. You've got a little bit of the, what's his face in Lord of the Rings that Grima Wormtongue kind of undermines. That dude, names fail me right now, but so something's wrong with her, and she's kind of roping all of the Queen's Guard and her organization into some kind of nefarious plot. So the idea of the second game is that, all your characters are from this ragtag resistance that are not traditional warriors.
Okay.
Practically what that means is like, instead of a cleric, you have an herbalist.
So this is XCOM 2.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
XCOM 2 has those classes are substantially different.
Not so instead of a barbarian, you have a blacksmith.
Okay.
And instead of an archer, you have a hunter. It feels very 1-to-1. And so that's, I wasn't familiar enough with the first game to really feel all the changes that are made to the second game. I'm sure they're there. But all that said, it is kind of a fun game to play, falling under the category of like, it moves when you move. So this is the perfect Steam Deck falling asleep in bed game, where I'm playing it through xCloud, but on my Steam Deck. Yeah. And it's just very easy, whether you're on the overworld map or in combat, you don't have to worry about an active time choice or anything like that. It's just whenever you press the button is when something happens next, and you can kind of ponder it at your leisure.
Okay.
Do they ever consider hey, maybe the core problem here is monarchy?
It feels like the Resistance has some seeds of that going on, but I won't pretend that the story is that in depth.
It's weird that magic is possible, but revolution isn't.
Right. I don't know. Have you seen today? We've got flying cars, but can't seem to unfuck our democracy. So maybe there's something there. So for the King 2, if you like roguelike games, and if you want something that kind of moves at your pace, it can be played in the background or on a Steam Deck, I recommend checking it out.
Okay. Yeah, I had never heard of the first one, so
yeah, it did. It kind of went under the radar.
Yeah.
I made the XCOM mistake of naming all of my party after people I know.
Okay.
Specifically my kids. So when they die horribly, it's going to be extra heartrending. Probably shouldn't have done that, but maybe it'll be fine.
Bad news for Luke 3. Great news for Luke 4.
Yes, indeed. So that is all the that is all the new stuff that I've been playing. But I've got a couple other things. Time check me. Should I save the less exciting stuff for later weeks?
Is one of them Fortnite, in which case we can tag team?
There you go. Yeah. Well, it's specifically the ballistic mode in Fortnite.
Yes.
Yeah. Tag team it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, took a sip at the wrong time.
So do we want the hot take version?
Let me hear your hot take.
Sure.
I'm very curious because we actually have not played this together yet.
What if first person shooters weren't fun?
Oh, okay.
That might be more a problem with the genre convention they're working within, which is that Ballistic is Fortnite's CSGO clone.
Oh.
This is a Counter-Strike just in the Fortnite platform as Fortnite continues its quest to be everything to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have to give it to them. It's very, very well implemented. Like, you would never know this was not what the game was, what the engine was always intended to be. The only weird thing I've found, which obviously does actually matter, is when you're spectating other players, their arms are freakishly long.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I assume it's something where it's like, in order to make the model look right in first person mode, we have to make the gun farther away or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'm sure there are courses that have been taught on first person model design versus third person.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But in terms of gameplay, I haven't really seen any bugs. It moves smooth, all that sort of stuff. I mean, is that your feel on it?
Largely, yes. Once I'm into a game, I've had several games where something goes wrong trying to load in.
Oh,
and
really?
It's like, yeah, my character is in the game, but I'm not actually joining. It's like I'm constantly on a death screen watching. And so, you basically just sit and spawn and wait until someone from the enemy team comes by and kills you.
Okay. Yeah. That is obviously less than ideal.
I'm trying to look at to look for anything that is screenshots, video, so I can get a sense for what exactly this is. Everything that they're the store entry on Epic, it is just empty level shots.
Really? That's weird.
There's no no screens of what's happening here.
Which is funny because the levels are actually one area where I feel like it kind of falls down, in that one of the coolest things about Fortnite is it has these extremely creative, highly 3D levels.
Yeah.
And in Ballistics, you basically get chill out from Halo 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so in being Counter-Strike, so it's first person and like more grounded. So you're not like, I don't know, using hang gliders or stuff like this. Like it is, you're literally just, they're taking Fortnite and turning it into kind of a standard first person, you know, number versus number competitive shooter.
Just Fortnite plus Jiggle peaks.
Play for kills. Plus what? I'm sorry? What the fuck
Jiggle
you say
peaks?
To me? What's Jiggle peaks?
You heard me.
It's this episode's title.
It's like when you, because of the way ping works, the first person to look around the corner gets a split second where they can see the enemy and the enemy can't see them.
It's a maneuver. Okay.
It's a
And
maneuver.
that ties directly into why this is actually kind of not a great game.
By the way, Zenless Zone Zero is the Fortnite with Jiggle peaks the way you were thinking of it.
I didn't have a I didn't have a like a reckon. It literally was just like an assassin's activation phrase.
That is actually cool. Cool skill phrase.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, that honestly to me kind of leads into the two of the biggest things I've seen as the problem of this is that, one, the kill time is incredibly low.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're coming used to playing Fortnite.
Yeah,
Wait,
what
does kill time
honestly, most of the times when I die, I don't even realize that I was shot at.
Kill time is like how much time between a person first hitting you and you dying generally is. So like either the weapons do a bunch of damage or you just have incredibly low health. It's like really high stakes, low margin for error kind of combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is that tends to having very low kill times tends to basically de-emphasize, strategy, that sort of thing, and emphasize twitch skills. Mm-hmm. Especially because it seems like it's very headshot oriented.
Yeah. And that is part and parcel with the genre that they are trying to create or join here.
I see there's a John Wick tie-in, so that makes sense.
Well, that's more just you can play as any of the Fortnite models, and like John Wick has long been one of the skins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit weird to play Counter-Strike, but there's Elastigirl, a like Gray Man Alien, and John Wick on the other team.
Are the weapons similarly boring to like a Counter-Strike?
Yes.
Or okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually even more so in that I honestly, like, as far as I can tell, there's only 3 weapons in the game. Pistol, regular assault rifle, and semi-auto assault rifle.
Okay.
Like, there is
shotguns,
a shotgun, but that's basically the same as saying I want to lose.
Oh man, back in Counter-Strike days, like shotguns were called like shit guns. They were people would complain if you used them because if it's like, oh, it's a newbie gun. There's no honor in it or whatever the fuck people say.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
I think the other issue I have with it is it, other than the headshot thing, it wants to be a tactical game. However, at least for me, none of the people I play it with actually play it tactically. So it's basically, I get in and I'm going through, checking my corners, working my way through, but all of my teammates just run off, and then it ends up like I'm the only one alive and everyone's pissed that it's taken me too long to die.
They turn it into a Twitch game.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you had a Counter-Strike launching from within a game that's primarily played by 8-year-olds, you know?
Right, exactly. I mean, which, to be fair, is Counter-Strike, but...
Oh, that's fair too, yeah. It's clear there's a lot of people jumping in and just playing it like they were in whatever Fortnite mode. Whereas this is very differently balanced. I believe that a coordinated team going through and checking corners would do better.
Probably.
You are just not going to find enough people in a random match that are intended to do that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that personally was kind of a turnoff for me is the only game mode they have is wherever the plant the bomb, which is probably my least favorite from Counter-Strike. And also the game length is for some reason just incredibly long. So you do basically 3 games of 7 rounds each. So it's a total of 21 rounds.
Wait a second, what? I didn't know that there were 3 game packages.
Oh yeah. Like
I have left a lot of games early then.
Well, it's weird. Like, as far as I can tell, part of it is I don't understand how Fortnite's like XP system works. If leaving early like makes it so you don't get anything, so maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, like it doesn't give you the return to lobby option until you've played 3 games.
Jeez.
I'm guessing
I was doing that
one might be a temporary thing. They might be having that because this is technically early access, so they want to see, get training data or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Huh.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the idea of, making a Fortnite first-person shooter is really cool. I just think this is kind of the most boring way they could have gone around doing it, especially since, like, in regular Fortnite, the big thing they added this time around is a whole bunch of cool, like, parkour moves you can do.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. It's clearly early access, and then unfortunately, I feel like this like first person mode it's created a new category of game you can create for, and they'll just sit back and wait for the content creators that are on the platform to swarm it and suss out what's actually fun.
Yeah, I've actually tried a couple of those. There's some popular ones that are basically like a attack and defense, more conventional first-person shooter type modes, and those are actually a fair amount of fun. Right now, they're a little basic. And I don't know if that's limitations of what Epic lets you do, or if it's just what's been developed so far.
Yeah. Huh.
What is mystifying to me is that Epic seems to just be dead set against giving players a team deathmatch mode and any sort of PvE mode.
Yeah,
where it seems like that should just be a gimme.
Well, they have them. It's all just in the creator content,
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Because like if they did, I know, like if you took the kind of a chunk of the conventional battle royale map, one of the cities, say, and made it like a team deathmatch area, that would be a lot of fun.
Sure. But yeah, so that's two big multiplayer games this week for me. I don't know what else you've been playing.
That's pretty much it. We're definitely going to have to get on and do some Fortnite and report back on some of the co-op stuff like that.
Some behind the scenes knowledge. my kiddos when they realized there was a game mode that because they kind of knew like Fortnite's not really my thing, but this ballistic thing is closer to what they see me playing. And they're like, Dad, can we play with your friends?
They tried to sell you. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But they specifically are looking for my people to jump in with them. I think it's because they think that we're better at games, but I have bad news for them.
Yeah. Oh,
cool.
Ben, I'm sorry. I thought. No.
Sorry, I was just going to say, other than that, I've been continuing on with Withering Rooms, made it to Act 3. It gets much, much weirder in Act 3, and the world you're exploring keeps getting bigger.
Okay.
And I will report, definitely by Act 3, it is very explicitly horror. Like,
okay.
Things keep getting weirder and keep getting more explicitly dark.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, highly recommend. That's all I got.
Cool. Any like mechanical hooks that change along with that tonal shift, or is it just again the world gets bigger?
So there's a couple of things, although they're kind of variations. They add a couple of new status effects.
Okay.
And most notably, there's now a status effect that basically every point it builds up permanently subtracts 1 from your maximum HP until you restart the night, until you basically die.
Okay.
And then also you start facing enemies that are immune to certain damage types. So like, most notably enemies in like flame retardant like armor and stuff, which is most relevant because a magic build is probably one of the strongest, like easiest ways to go through the game. And so that's where there starts being a little bit of a hitch in terms of you can't just fireball everyone. That's the main thing. You do get to explore some areas, and the game gets much weirder. The one advice I would give if you play this, if anyone plays this, is take some notes about the characters as you hear them.
Okay.
You don't need to do like, this isn't like an old school like RPG type of thing where you have to, do that. But it's mainly the way the game structures things. There's a lot of things where, for example, it'll be like, oh, Susie, set up the trombone paradox, and then went out to scout the flugelhorn plains.
Okay.
And then like an hour later you'll get to the flugelhorn plains, and you've already long since bypassed and solved the trombone paradox.
Okay.
And you'll meet this NPC and be able to ask and like get background over the trombone paradox. And often I'm like, wait, why am I asking about this thing that happened hours ago? And then also there's partially with the way the story's structured and partially with just the characters that show up, there's a number of characters that kind of serve different roles. So like there's a few characters that are like like up and coming person in this faction that's kind of is skilled beyond their years, that sort of thing. And so it can be a little bit like, wait, which one were you?
Okay, yeah.
So and then they also start doing some weird mindfuck things that that makes some of it a little difficult. But
okay.
But yeah,
I assume you talked about this game last week, but this is the first time hearing about it. But it looks cool, like the amount of diversity of like villains and abilities that you can do in the game.
Yeah, it's very, very diverse in terms of abilities. I love you. There's a lot of things where you'll get certain items. And it's a thing where, like, you could, if you wanted to, build your own whole character around it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, normally you're, doing some sort of, dodging or just tanking or, using ranged weapons for your defense. But there's a ring that just lets you, like, activate it to temporarily turn to a statue for, like, a split second. So it's becomes like that. Oh, what was that
Mortal Shell
game that
Mortal
did
Shell.
that? Yeah, exactly. And so it's like a completely different way you can approach combat if you want to.
Nice. Yeah, I grow more and more curious about this. I'm trying to decide if this is one that I want to play for myself or if it's one that I want to stream. It is always a difficult prospect to stream a roguelike.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, so we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Is that all you had?
Yep, that's it.
Cool. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull a few from the backlog. I'll start off. This was a couple weeks ago, but I played Rise of the Golden Idol.
Shit. Yeah.
I had teased about this before when I played the DLC a couple months ago, and I think I mentioned that this game was coming out. It came out in November sometime.
Yeah.
So this is like the standalone sequel to Case of the Golden Idol. It's had, I think, 2 DLCs since the original game that tie into the original story. This one is a different story, and I believe like kind of like a spiritual successor. It takes place in a completely different like time and place. I believe they reference like the culture and the area of the first game.
Yeah.
As its like own thing, but I don't believe there's directly like this character from the first game like comes in as a surprise surprise appearance or anything like that.
Yeah, the previous game that felt like it was like in the 1700s. This one is in the 1970s or something like that.
Exactly,
it's alternate history, so it doesn't map entirely, but
this is heavily inspired by like 60s and 70s. So all the characters are kind of feel like they fit in that time, that place.
Super mod, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a British version of it or British flavor of it. But the game itself, like, it's mostly just a polished version of the original game. Like, the TLDR is just like, if you like the first game and you want more content, this is what this game has.
The thing about it is the original game is so unique that there's kind of nowhere else to get exactly that kind of the detective game.
Yeah.
What is like the 5-minute pitch on the game?
Yeah. So basically, for any version of this game, the DLC, the original or the second one, you are dropped into a scene. The scene might have like 3 or 4 places that you can jump between, kind of like a point and click adventure going from like room to room. And it is like a freeze frame with like slight animation showing like what's going on. And typically it's during some sort of surprise or impactful interaction. And you can inspect not anything, but you can inspect a lot of different things on each of these kind of tableaus.
You're like an omniscient observer. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you can, for example, go into the pockets of some characters and see what items that they have and like read notes that they have. And as you're clicking along all these different things, you're building a library of words. So it could be, and they're kind of color coded into different categories. So it could be like numbers, for example, or it could be, people's names, or it could just be verbs and stuff like that. And then it becomes a Mad Lib sort of puzzle, except there's a correct answer. There's not, you don't improv like what the story is. There's on a separate screen that you can click to open up. There's like a text description of either what's happening. That's typically always part of it. But then there could be other things that are kind of germane to the specific scene going on. So as an example, of what a level might be, you might see like somebody dying of poisoning at a dinner table, and what you have to do as a puzzle is figure out what happened here. And so you're describing like, oh, this person decided to poison this person and they did it by doing this, and you uncover all those details by looking around this entire tableau, like all these different scenes, and collecting enough clues to figure out like, oh, this person was here, and oh, this person doesn't like this person, that sort of thing. but on top of the narrative, it might have other puzzles, like it might just show a diagram of the dinner table and be like, okay, tell me where was each person sitting and what were they having for dinner? And you might figure out that puzzle on top of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I think one of the strengths of the first game is it has a very strong narrative, and it specifically has a very strong ratcheting up of the narrative, where the last, like, maybe 4 or 5 levels, you're like, oh, they're going there. Oh, they're going there. Oh, my God. You know, like, that sort of thing. So I think that's one of the bigger joys out of playing the first game. Now, dovetailing that into the second game also tries to take some like leaps with the narrative, and they try and tell an interesting story. And they do a good job. Kind of like the pattern is, it's like show something shocking and then play 2 or 3 more levels. And then on the last level, like tie it all together so that you understand what that first shocking thing was. Yeah. And then like rinse and repeat, you know, over the course of like 5 or 6 stages. Yeah, I won't say anything about like specifics of the narratives or spoil anything, but they do a good job of at least like having a few threads with payoffs towards the end. It doesn't quite reach the heights of the first game in terms of like really pushing the envelope of where it goes, and it still has the same drawbacks that all of the games have. So if you're turned off by any of those, you'll still be turned off by this, which is typically you have like maybe 20 words to fill in on this narrative, and 2 or more of them are wrong, and you're not sure where it is, and you eventually have to look up the solution. Like hints might not get you there, and then like it's a verb change out where 2 words kind of mean the same thing, but you just chose the wrong one.
It kind of gets one way that they get around it is like the worksheet that you fill out at the end. It is broken up into little sections, and you do like the smaller little windows with the kind of constituent information, like name all of these characters, you know, separately. And there are fewer possibilities that, you know, to go into each of those. And it will tell you if there are 2 or more, if there are more than 3 things wrong, or if there are 2 things wrong.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Or correct, yeah.
Yeah, basically it lets you know, like, hey, you're close. Just like maybe these couple of things are switched. So that is not as frustrating as it necessarily could be.
Yeah, so that is a good mechanic that they have in the game. However, that gets subverted where some of like the narrative stories or something, like it'll have a name that's repeated multiple times that you fill in. And so if you're wrong on any part of it, like either the first or the last name or the character, then you don't get that like close feature. You know, you don't get that you're 2 away sort of thing.
Yeah.
Without kind of going through this kind of rote process of like changing everything out and trying every possibility, which you don't want to do.
Yeah, you don't want to end up brute forcing this. Yeah.
Yeah, so by and large, I think with this is like, for me, the way I play it is like I'll get to a point where I think I know everything I should, and I'll put it in, and if I'm 2 away, I'll figure out what the answer is. If I'm farther away, I'll just start looking up the answer, and like and you basically play until you think you've noticed all the details and have enough information to go make a run at it. So I'm okay with that process, but I know maybe that might be disappointing for other people, or but yeah, in any case, it's the thing I keep coming back to is it's just more Case of the Golden Idol. So if you like that, it's more stuff, you'll enjoy it. If you're frustrated by Case of the Golden Idol, you'll be frustrated by this. And then, it's more meatier than the DLCs. And it does have like a longer story. So there is more of like a narrative payoff there. It takes place over like maybe 5 or 6 chapters, I think. And each chapter will have like 4 or 5 scenes to it. So it has a good amount of content. It probably will take you like, you know, a couple days to beat if you're playing pretty frequent. But yeah, I don't know.
That's basic. Like I don't have any like too many questions because knowing that the basic setup is there, knowing that it's just kind of more in a different setting. Like I don't have questions because it just kind of sounds like what I want. Yeah, it's a little disappointing to hear that they don't take kind of the swings that the first one does, but I don't know. Maybe there is potential in a kind of a smaller scale. kind of deal.
Yeah, I'll say the same sort of like kind of mystique or intrigue around the Golden Idol. They have something similar in this game, so that part's there. But yeah, the ratcheting up is not there. So, yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say about that game. I mean, I'll still play any game that they put out in this Golden Idol series. So, it's by no means a bad game. It's just not going to be like an A+ knock you to the floor sort of game. The same way that the first one was, since it was like brand new and pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah. Nice. I got one more. I played this. This is like a humble brag situation. We sometimes do game days at work where like we get the day off. We get the day off, quote unquote, but we show up and we play games with our coworkers as a good like bonding experience. And so I tried a new game out through this, and I played Space Marine 2.
Okay.
The Warhammer game.
Oh, nice. Have you played the first one?
Nope. And I've surprisingly played a lot of Warhammer games for knowing nothing about Warhammer at all. It's just like tangential ones will just pop in, like the orc like car game or whatever I talked about sometime this year, or the I forget the one that's the popular one, the
Vermintide.
Like, and then the new one of that, which I forget what it's called.
Darktide.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for being my external memory.
That's fine.
So this one I was really impressed by, just because I thought it nailed like the theming of, even though I don't know that much about Warhammer 2K.
I mean, it's named after what it is. Like nothing in Warhammer is subtle.
Yeah.
So.
This in the grim darkness of the future, there's no peace, only war.
It really captured the vibe of Gears of War the first time playing that, where it's like you have the hyper, strong Space Marines and stuff like that, and they're not just like throwaway characters. They do kind of there is like lore behind them, and I don't know if somebody told me this or this was in game about like how like Space Marines like have this like life. There's like one who's like super old, but they didn't know how long like Space Marines could live because they all die off because they're constantly like fighting and stuff like that. This really like sticks to the universe, and it puts you in really captivating situations. So as I understand it, and this could be wrong because I haven't played it exhaustively, there's like 9 or like 11 campaigns that you can play in this, and each campaign's 2 hours long. So it's kind of like extended like missions that you're playing, like similar to like a Left 4 Dead or something like that. Yeah. So of that, I only played 2 of them. I think the intro mission, maybe 3 of them. The intro mission, and then one where at a certain point you have to protect a satellite. There's a common enemy that you're facing in this. I don't know how divergent they get from that, but it's basically like a shit ton of bugs, and that's like the equivalent of zombies. Yeah. So that's the equivalent of zombies from like the Left 4 Dead game. What's really nice about this is the fighting mechanics are very clean and very good. Your options for what you can do for like interacting and fighting, if you have a gun, you can shoot, but you also have like a melee weapon where it's like you have a light attack, a strong attack, and you have like this gun shoot someone if they're downed ability as well. It's not like you aiming and shooting, it's just pressing a button and you like enter a quick cutscene and like shoot at somebody. And so there's kind of this like Batman tappa rhythm of it, where if you do a heavy attack on someone, they're quote unquote downed, and you can shoot them with a gun, and that kind of like knocks people back. The enemy variety is there's basically small things that like fall apart with a few shots, and then there's like bigger things that you need to kind of put more attention to take down. Like Doom, there's these like glory kill animations that'll refill your health once you've taken away a certain amount of their health, like 50 or 75% of it. And it's a co-op game. You can play with up to 3 people on a squad. They have some really impressive moments in the game where, for example, you might see like a dam get blown up, and you see like hundreds of enemies pouring through, and you see them continuously run from there to you. And like the kind of what they're doing behind the scenes in the game is like typically what they'll need to do is like crawl up a wall to get to you. So, and that it kind of has its own like AI similar to Days Gone, where they have this like mob AI where they'll start climbing on top of one another, kind of like in World War Z, and then they'll like start breaching the wall unless you start shooting these like piles of them, and then they'll start kind of imploding and not get to you explicitly. But like moments like that are super impressive. And then they also like to design around these like set piece moments where I think I mentioned this before. There's like one part where you're defending a satellite and there would be like swarms of these like bat creatures trying to like disable it. And you kind of run around and attack them. It's just like such like a cinematic experience. And like it does a really good job of making it feel like really, really cool and really, really immersive. I don't know how that feels like when you've played the same mission for like the third or fourth or 10th time or whatever.
Yeah, spectacle wears off, but like there's value in that first play.
Yeah, and the fact that the combat's so clean, I could see it being like something like a Deep Rock Galactic, that sort of thing, where it's like you can play it over and over again. It's pretty fun. So I was okay.
You know, what Space Marine chapter do you play as?
There's like you can pick different classes. I have no idea which one I am because I just was the default character and I joined a squad. I didn't engage in any of that system at all. I did the tutorial mission, and that's like where most of the narrative is that I got. But after that, I just played I think one or two standalone like missions, and then somebody else was the squad leader who was more familiar with the game, so they were picking it. So I am completely in the dark about that, unfortunately. Yeah, and I think I have a friend that I know of who owns this game, so that's I think my source for playing and learning more about this game if I want to interact with the multiplayer. But yeah, I would definitely be willing to play more of this game. I was like the lore. I'm usually not a big Warhammer kind of guy, but like the Space Marine theming and like just like the spaceships, how they're like basically like floating like cathedrals and stuff like that. It's it gives the vibes of that one indie game. I think it was like the Banished Vault. I think that we talked about. It gives vibes of that. It's not the same style per se, but it's the same like environment or the same like patterns are going on there. Of,
Space
like, what's
Gothic kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just really cool. It's just a really cool environment. And again, it gives me the same vibes as like Gears of War the first time I played, where it's like, yeah, it's just a really cool like culture, a really cool feel. So they definitely nailed the aesthetic in my opinion. But I'm somebody from the outside, so take my verdict with a grain of salt here. But
I haven't heard complaints from people who are credible actual fans of the of the thing. There are people who are raising a fuss because I guess there's a girl Space Marine or whatever, but that is literally not worth addressing. People who like Space Marines say like, hey, this is good.
Yeah, can confirm. People that will talk my ear off all day about Warhammer lore are very happy with this game.
Yeah, it's sweet, and it's I think it's like 60 or 70, I think. But yeah, it's I mean, wait for it to go on sale if you don't want to buy it at full price. But yeah, if you're looking for that sort of game with friends to play, this is definitely up there. So I think this is definitely a viable option, like compared to things like Left 4 Dead or Deep Rock Galactic and stuff like that. Like it's a good ride.
4-player co-op.
Only 3 on this one.
Only 3.
So,
okay.
Yeah, squads of 3. So be warned. So if you have 3 friends and one who you really don't like, this is the perfect game for you. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, a little aggressive. I said I was sorry. No. Is there a programming reason why certain games are gated at 3 versus 4 versus whatever players? Or is that just a perfectly arbitrary, like, hey, you gotta pick something and design the game around it?
Yeah, I don't see anything in the like mechanics of the game that would speak to why it would need to be a 3-player game, or it's like set up to be a 3-player game. So I would imagine it's some sort of like technical limitation. I know like Rocket League, for example, is one where 3 people, the game runs smooth, but if you had a 4th person or 4-on-4 or something like that, it starts to get chuggy. And I know that's because of like the server is running its own calculations of like where the ball is, and it has to tell that to 8 players instead of 6 players. And so there is like a latency hit there, at least for Rocket League. There could be something like that on this, and that could be why. So, yeah, I think that's a good guess.
Okay. Space Marines too. Yeah, I just if I did you have anything else, or do you want to call it a day there?
I'm going to call it a day there. I have a few more in backlog from November, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's a segment.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you asked the nice people?
Yeah, I alluded to this earlier, but Marvel Rivals is kind of taking the internet by storm, and Wolverine and Cyclops and Rogue. Don't hate me, I can't help myself.
No, it's fine. It's good. I think it works better in text, but yes.
Yes. So what comic book or graphic novel character would you most want to see get a standalone game?
Yeah. And I will get us started here with Jeremy, who says, all right, taking one for the team. Guts from Berserk and FromSoft adapting it. R.I.P. to Master Miura. There have been a few Berserk games. Recently, there was the Dynasty Warriors-esque entry that wasn't very good. There's not been a good Berserk game, as far as I know. So
It's an important distinction to make.
What's that?
Wasn't that basically what Bloodborne was?
Nah, no. Berserk very specifically is like way more kinetic and gory and stuff than that. Yeah. What was the thing you said, Dennis?
That it's important to make a distinction between a game with starring a certain character and a good game starring a certain character.
yeah. But like FromSoft adapting it, making a straight up Berserk adaptation. Yeah, I could see it. Let's see. Ben, what does Case say?
I'm getting triggered. I had to spell check this one. We've never gotten a good Blade-centric video game as opposed to being a part of a larger team like in Midnight Suns. You'd think someone would have made one by now, but no. So I'd say I'd like some motherfucker to try and ice skate uphill just one more time and make a good Blade video game.
I think Arcane is making one, like an immersive sim.
That would be a good team to make it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of in development hell. Because of
just like Blade.
Yeah. But that is a good fit, I think. So
it's not the Arcane that made Redfall, right? Because that was a vampire game that
this is
not one to attach Blade to.
I think this is I think it's a different Arcane.
They should just key in on the Midnight Suns part and just make a Blade dating simulator game where you're just trying to make Blade happy and give him some presents.
Yeah.
He does have the best lines in that game.
Moxie, what does Peter say?
Peter says, it would be a bit of a challenge, but I'd like to see one of two graphic novels be adapted to a game media. The first would be V for Vendetta that explores the fallout of the events after V blows up Parliament. If that's too difficult, then an opportunity to play out the hero stories of the Watchmen before the events that led to the graphic novel. To set the game in the universe, but take the freedom of just needing to get to a point in the story. Alternately, just the open world to explore the characters.
Yeah.
So that raises a question. Has there ever been a superhero game that's been like one of the war scenarios? Because like most of the famous, or a lot of the famous superheroes, fought in World War II, that sort of thing, or were veterans of like Vietnam, stuff like that, but I don't know of any games that have actually covered that.
Not that I can remember, no.
I think there's one coming out that Amy Hennig is making, like Rise of whatever that Viper, Rise of Hydra or whatever.
Okay.
I think that takes place in World War II environment.
Yeah.
So not yet.
Not yet.
And it's funny, Frank Miller has said explicitly, like he tried to make sure that Watchmen was something that you could never adapt to film.
You mean Alan Moore?
Alan Moore?
Very different people. Yes. Alan Moore. Yeah. Not
Frank Miller was 300.
Yeah. Frank Miller's the 300 guy, the fascist. Yeah.
He is apparently,
you are totally right.
Apparently done a heel face turn in recent years.
Oh, okay. He still made Holy Terror. I don't.
Yeah, he's apparently come out and basically said like, yeah, my life was in shambles, that sort of thing, and like I really regret that, and that was my bad.
Oh my God. Frank Miller is the name of Rorschach in World. So yes,
Oh,
Alan
weird.
Moore.
Okay.
I'll have to dive into that one in a second. But yes, anyway, Alan Moore said he wanted to make Watchmen so that you could never like actually, adapt it to film. Clearly they have, but he did not exclude video game as a medium. So we're good.
I mean, Alan Moore is also kind of a nut job.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have actively have engaged in a wizard duel.
Dennis, what does Callum say?
Callum says, I like the idea of Gambit. Being able to pick up random things in the environment, charge them, and have them blow up would be cool. There was a game called PsyOps, I think.
Yeah, I was about to say, just like revive that team.
Yeah. I mean, man, this was one of my answers. I'll piggyback on this. But the idea of playing like a Gambit, like immersive sim or, kind of like just action RPG kind of thing where you're like him during his like petty criminal, like doing jobs in New Orleans kind of phase.
Yes.
Like selecting your powers and, working on like, different card and like melee tricks or attacks or whatever.
Would be cool.
But just like going around, very heavily New Orleans kind of featured, doing just like crime story kind of stuff. And that would be real fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. David writes, ever since the X-Men cartoon introduced me to comics, my favorite character has always been Nightcrawler. Games at that time could never make his power set look right. I doubt Marvel would make something based on a third-string X-Men character, but I could imagine a Dishonored-style game with teleportation being the main concept. Oh yeah, that maps on like right away. Like that is just plug and play at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then let's see here, Ben, what does Thrensa say?
Thrensa says, Moon Knight action-adventure game where you can shift between various personalities to change your in and out of combat verbs.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm. That would be.
I'd be down. Let's see. My other one would be to do like a Disco Elysium out of Grant Morrison's The Filth. That is
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, it's like a 4 or 5 issue like limited run series about heroes who it's basically a big deconstruction of superhero stuff, and it gets really metatextual in a lot of ways, but it's like way more like psychedelic and just like visually and tonally off-putting than Watchmen is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Filth is really good. It was Gary who introduced me to that, but like doing a narrative-based game where you're like playing as kind of the main character of that, like the person who's kind of like brought back in after kind of leaving the Filth and having us like losing his memory about it, kind of like brought back in to work some of the cases. I think it'd be cool. Yeah, that's mine. Ben, how about you?
I'm going to say GTA Sin City would be sweet.
Okay. Yeah. And Moxie, how about you?
So I'm gonna give a few. I would love my answer for this on almost anything of what should be adapted is Booster Gold. Just a superhero whose entire goal is to be famous. I think would be fun. And I think you could do a lot of fun mechanics where you have to actively seek out product endorsements and stuff like that to gain more power and such. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see Something's Killing the Children, mainly just because that's my favorite comic book series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'd be fun to see something bring back kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque stories.
Okay.
The one I'd really double down, though, is I think a Power Man and Iron Fist beat 'em up.
Okay.
Especially if you could figure out a way to do kind of the blaxploitation story without, all the things that have aged poorly. Yeah, exactly. I know. I think that could be a lot of fun. I think those are characters that were, as much as I loved the Netflix series, I think didn't really capture what makes particularly those characters together special.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see many buddy films or buddy games anymore.
Yeah. You're just constantly chasing that army of two dragon.
Yep.
Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna show my dad status in this one, but I want a Dogman video game where you can play as someone with all the powers of someone with a human body but a dog head.
But
It's a comic book series, whatever, that my kids are very into. It's getting a movie, I think, in the new year.
Yep.
And they're basically melting down over it. So put that in video game form, and you're gonna have a good time if you got kids.
Makes sense.
See, it's funny to me, though, that's one of them. Like, that and Bluey are the two things that everyone I know that has appropriately aged kids, like, the parents are super excited for.
Yes. There's, they could still do Dogman dirty in this movie, and it could be terrible. But the stuff it's based on is good times.
Nice. Good question. Good answers. Thank you for posting it, Dennis. If you want to participate in the multiplayer, join the Duckfeed community Facebook group and watch for the prompts to go up generally on Monday afternoons, but not again until the new year.
Mm-hmm.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are going on in the world of video games. Loath as I am to talk about the Game Awards, that is something that I brought, and Ben, you also brought it as well, so I'm going to throw to you.
I was going to say, I could talk about it more passionately if you're not into it.
No, I just I think the event itself is tacky and goofy, but there is stuff that is revealed that is cool to know is coming.
Kind of the realization I've come to this year is that this is essentially what E3 is now. Like, we don't have E3 anymore. We have this now. And so it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, okay.
I think the announcements kind of varied in quality. There's some, some things were cool. The one that I was super floored by and was extremely excited about was the last one, which was the new Naughty Dog game called Intergalactic.
Yes.
You just really get hard for product placements, huh?
Well, I mean, it's Sony stuff, so I can understand why it's there. But then, it also seems heavily inspired by, like, Akira. I don't know if people are talking about this. Kumail Nanjiani, I think, is in the trailer for it, and that's the person that they're hunting. But I could be wrong. I was the only one.
Somebody who sounds like him. Yeah.
Like the actual celebrity, or
you see like a thumbnail picture, so it's only like a headshot. Anyway, but so it could be, but maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. That was the thing that I was most excited for. The vibes look great. I'm really excited that they found kind of like another option that differentiates from their previous works, like Uncharted and Last of Us, like sci-fi, over the top, retro. Like, that looks cool. So I'm very hopeful for that. I guess some other ones I'll just shout out real quick, and if you want to talk about them, we can. New Witcher game looks like it could be cool.
Yep.
The new Fumito Ude game.
We're not playing that game for 20 years. Like, it looks cool, and I'm kind of making a fun obvious joke. That doesn't even have a name yet. Right.
Who is this?
This is the guy who made
Reggae?
Shadow of the Colossus.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it looks like Shadow of the Colossus, I'll play it. If it turns
The
out
Last
it's like The Last Guardian,
I'll
probably skip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one that I don't know if it was announced in the Game Awards or if it's just around the same time, but the second Slay the Spire game, they released more of a trailer for that, and it shows like a lot of gameplay in it. kind of like Case of the Golden Idol, it just looks like more Slay the Spire. I imagine the game design's probably advanced in this one, or is taking more leaps compared to the first one. But it looks cool. I'm excited for that. I'll probably try and play an early access version of that, but we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah. What hit you?
The announcement that I was most excited about, because it seemed like something new, is a game called Dispatch. This is by a studio made up of former Telltale people. Ad hoc studio formed here. It's coming out next year. This is a narrative-based game where you are playing as a superhero who gets injured and ends up needing to like ride a desk in this city, working dispatch to send other superheroes to go to their, to go to jobs. Right.
So do you know what game this reminded me of? A whole bunch of, like, almost 1-to-1.
What
is This Is the Police? Do you remember that game?
Oh, I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
The core mechanic where you're like moving people around, it looks just like that. But that was a very fun mechanic, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah. But like you're playing out, based on what I can see, there's the sections where you are sending the heroes out and matching them to jobs and making sure they get to the right place. But like, your character, being stuck at the office and working around these people and, the choices that you make talking to them, affecting things and all, alongside, where you send people and what seems really promising. It is, pulling from a more colorful tradition of superhero stuff than I've seen, here recently. Oh, and the main character is voiced by Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly thought this was a game out of the Invincible universe when it first started playing. Like it
has
really
kind of a similar
has that
vibe.
kind of vibe.
Yeah, similar visual style. To a certain point. Yeah, like it was the most like unique new thing that I saw.
That does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, I would. I'd like this. This is like, I don't know, day one. The way that I play games, it's so hard to say. Like, oh yes, day one. This will be high priority when it comes out. I'm very curious about it.
You will buy it on day one, whether or not you play it on day one.
Yeah. That's you got my number. And then Game of the Year went to Astrobot.
Yeah.
I had never even heard of.
I talked about it on the show, I thought.
Yeah. Just 3D platformer, like Sony themed kind of stuff. But yeah.
I was not unhappy with that decision. I thought it was a very good game. Like I speed beat it in like 2 or 3 days back to back. So
I was just happy it didn't go to Black Myth Wukong. But
just because of
the
company being rubbish?
The studio being shit. Yeah.
Ben and the 3 other people that played Astrobot were very happy with the decision. But everyone else kind of came off a little bit confused.
Astrobot was incredibly popular. It was all, on Twitter, like on the very few video game podcasts I listened to, people were like going wild for it.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was completely...
Yeah. If you had asked me, I would have... I need to look because I was a little bit surprised. For as much as it matters. I was surprised that it didn't go to Balatro, actually.
Balatro probably would have been... Balatro Helldivers were my 2 pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised by either of those. I was very surprised by Astrobot. Not surprised that Black Myth didn't get the nod.
Yeah. I don't think that's a game that people are going to be thinking about for a very long time. Yeah.
If you go I Googled the Metacritic scores of all the games that came out this year, and Astrobot's at the top with Metaphor and Elden Ring at 94.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's... Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not a slouch. In terms of, I think it's a surprise, like at the scale, like it's not as big of an upset as like Balatro winning it.
Is there, I know it was a Sony exclusive. Is there any way to see like sales numbers for that or like how many people actually played it?
No clue.
Because my impression was, again, like I said, it's a lot of people were just surprised when it was not on their radar.
Yeah.
I could totally see something kind of being a critical darling and dominating the capital D discourse, and just not getting to regular people the way it should have. But I'm curious now.
So insofar as any of this matters, right?
Right. Yeah. Huge asterisk.
Yeah. I don't mean to neg this thing because I know Ben, enjoys the show, and we've talked about it a lot in the past. But like, if we talk about, okay, what feedback does this give the industry? Astrobot coming out of basically the tattered remains of Sony Interactive Studio, a studio that was like shut down by Sony because they wanted to focus on like service games or whatever. Like the tatters of this team that used to make incredibly creative things, like that's like the Gravity Rush people, right?
Okay.
Getting this kind of positive feedback, let alone the sales that it did, but getting this kind of positive feedback about, like a project this modest, not photorealistic, still good looking, but, not modeling every hair on somebody's head, kind of deal. Like, I hope the signal that this sends is that make more games at this scale and this fidelity that are just focused primarily on fun, inventive play ideas, right?
Oh, no, you've got it completely backwards. The lesson is we can lay everyone off and everything will be fine.
Yeah, AI will handle it. No, I just, we live in we live in hell, so that's not the message that's going to come across. I just would like to see more stuff, that is like this, I guess.
Yeah.
So it sold 1.5 million copies since in its 2 months from launch, which was considered a runaway success given that it is exclusive,
yes,
etc. So
yeah,
sales backed it up. Apparently, I just missed this because I love the VR one, but go figure.
Yeah,
I guess I should have recommended this to you when it came out, but I just assumed it was on your radar since it was like a love letter to PlayStation. I was like, oh, he probably knows about this. But.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know about it because you talked about it. I guess I just never made the jump myself.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I'll say one more thing is one thing that I thought should have gotten more love was I was disappointed Animal Well didn't get anything at all.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed that game. I thought that was a really good game. So.
Yeah, that also, very in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. Let's see. Dennis, let's get this out of the way. What is coming to Fortnite?
Yeah, in a time of big announcements from the Game Awards and end of year stuff, the most impressive thing is that Skibidi Toilet are coming to Fortnite, which I forced me to actually learn how that would even work. I remain relatively ignorant on what exactly goes into a Skibidi Toilet, but apparently they're
a Skibidi.
Of course. And then apparently there's a plunger man and all this stuff. Fortnite just teased it with a tweet or whatever they're on now. And then, leakers shared additional information because that's all just part of the hype cycle now, that there's skins and stuff coming. I think the interesting thing to me about this story was the videos this is based on are all built in Gary's mod. And use the G-Man model or whatever. And so for this to make the jump over into Fortnite either means they've gotten some kind of permission from Valve or they're just saying, fuck that, we want Skibidi.
Yeah.
So, less because I have any investment or knowledge in these characters, more because I'm eyeing Epic potentially pissing off another industry giant.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, a direct competitor in the storefront. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine that they're not going to, it's going to be a different enough model to where we're not actually using this. Although having it in the Gary's mod visual style, clashing with everything else, just kind of looking vaguely shitty, seems like it would be the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really hoping this is a player model and it's just the toilet sort of sprouting legs like the mimic in Dark Souls.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the kids will like it. This is perfectly in line with the shit that Fortnite does. So good on them.
Yeah. It's everyone's everything game for everywhere.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll see what actually shows up, and see if it causes any words between Valve and Epic.
Yeah. And Moxie, you have 2 ones here, so I will throw it to you.
Yeah, first one's just real small. Someone figured out that the language that's used to implement man pages in Linux, which is basically the documentation system, is apparently Turing complete. And so they implemented Conway's Game of Life in the man pages.
Of course.
Yeah, no words yet on Doom, but I think we can only presume that that's coming soon.
Yeah, eventually it's going to get there. Yeah.
Okay, none of these words are making sense to me.
Yeah, none of those words are in the Bible.
Translate this for me.
Yeah.
So Conway's Game of Life is a cellular automation game. So basically you have a grid and a simple set of rules. I don't have it memorized, but it's something along the lines of each square is either black or white. And if a black square is surrounded by a certain number of other black squares, it turns white. And if a white square is, a certain number of black squares, it turns black, that sort of thing. And it's just these simple rules, but the end result is highly complex, emergent, like shapes and animations and stuff like that.
It's not a game. It's like a simulation that runs out according to particular rules.
Yeah,
and
people
is it
sometimes
deterministic?
call it a zero-player game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can
So
make
you'll always get the same result.
Well, the idea is like you make certain shapes and they have certain properties. So you can make things that will just like translate themselves, down or left or something like that.
I see.
And then the idea is you get this complicated behavior that looks like something as complicated as life eventually with these very simple rules. And so it's used as that sort of argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
I look at it, I look at the output from it, and it's basically no different than like a fractal generator that if you just drew a simple thing into it, it plays it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now a web page is doing this.
No, now the kind of the sort of the equivalent of the readme document for like an old school computer program is doing it.
But it's not the document, it is the language in which the document is encoded.
Well, the document is written in a very complicated language, and so it is in the document. It's just not anything that was ever intended to be done with the document.
Gotcha. Huh. I'm surprised it took this long to figure it out.
Yeah. Well,
Leave it to computer scientists to ignore intentionality.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
All that's there is the rules.
And then the second thing is someone made a game where you basically have a chat GPT style text bot, and you are attempting to get it to tell you a password. And each level, there's more and more security safeguards put on. So like the very first one, you can just straight up say like, what is the password? And then
Nice.
I think the second one, it won't straight up tell you the password, but if you can trick it into telling you something that is functionally identical to the password, and then later on it will shut down anything where you simply, if you talk about the password, and so on and so forth. It gets more and more complicated to see if you can get through.
It's like you're just trying to vaguely social engineer an increasingly strict genie.
Right. And, kind of as a demonstration of the fact that, like, you can make it more secure, but you can never make it completely secure. Like the final level of it, the way I got it is I managed to get it to tell me how long the password is and to describe what the word it used for the password meant. Mm-hmm. And then was able to like work backwards and figure out, all right, what's a however many character word that makes sense in this context.
Okay.
So this was made by an AI security company, and you just have to know this is being trained to make sure AIs don't reveal passwords.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Although it's funny because, like, I'm not sure, like the whole point of this is you can break it. So I don't know. It seems like they're kind of undermining their own point. I don't know.
Well, in a week or two, when this blows up, they will have the version that no one's been able to break yet.
Yes.
Tested with 600 billion man hours.
Right, exactly.
At scale. And we only boiled 5 lakes. No. But no.
What have lakes ever done for us?
I think just a fun open-ended little logic game. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I seem quiet, it's because I'm trying to trick a chatbot into telling me a password.
Nerd sniped.
If you just tell it, come on, be cool. Oh, I think that's all the stories. So I think we gotta button it up if you guys are okay with this. Yeah, we have to go now.
If we stay on too much longer, the monster will arrive.
Yeah, no, I am so tired. How do y'all feel about buttoning it up?
Button it.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to level number 526. I was about to say it's been a great year. It's been a terrible year. Mm-hmm. However, it's been a good year on the show. A lot of fun to everybody involved, and and everybody here, to Jala, and also to the listeners. It's fun to do. If you want to help,
Gwen making us sound good in the background.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, thanks for making me look like a dick for kind of forgetting her. No. But yeah, if you want to help us choose the title of the year, we are taking votes on that for an indeterminate amount of time. Just go check it out. There'll be a link in the post. It'll be posted up on social media and a couple of different places. Help us do this fun self-indulgent thing. And we will talk about that in the new year. And the stuff you can do to help us, to help out the show. So not going to go over all that again. Just going to say I hope you have a fun and safe holiday. Am I forgetting anything?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I have been Cole Ross. You can find me on Blue Sky at Cole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can find me on Blue Sky at Furia Games.
I have been Moxie this year. Perhaps I will be something different in the future.
Why not?
And I've been Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles. Yeah, titles. I've got 2. I've got Jiggle Peaks, but it's peaks like a mountain. And I also have It Starts to Get Chuggy, which is the thing that Ben said that I thought was a fun phrase.
Describes us at New Year's, am I right, boys?
Hey.
I had What's Jiggle Peaks, also like a mountain. I didn't realize we were spelling it not like a mountain.
Because you're peeking around a corner. It's Peek. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other one?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Dennis, how about you?
Jiggle Peaks all the way.
Okay. And Ben, how about you?
I have 2. I got Jiggle Peaks, but the other one I like a little bit better. I have Good News for Luke 4.
Sorry about that. Drop for a sec.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's all right. Yeah, I mean, by votes, I mean, if all four of us had Jiggle Peaks,
Yep.
it's got to be Jiggle Peaks, right?
Yes.
Okay. That won't be on the poll. I always leave the last one off because it's biasing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it is decided.